Welcome to the In My Opinion show with Ron Barry Robinson and friends. Seen on the internet 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our shows are also seen on Flint, Michigan Comcast Television, Cable, Channel 17. Every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. and every Saturday at 6 p.m. This show is also seen on Comcast Channel 68, Detroit, Michigan, 7 days a week. Today I have in the audience with me Ezra Artis, a very successful businessman for many, many years in the area. Welcome, Ezra.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Henry. I'm glad you invited me to be on your show.
I can think of a better person that I would like to have on this show than you. You have a very successful record, and I've known you for a long time, and you're a great addition to our program. But first I want to ask you, several days ago, maybe 10 days ago, you received a very prestigious award from Mott Community College. You want to tell us about that award?
Be glad to, because that was really one of the highlights of my life, Henry. You know, the distinguished alumni of Mott College, going back, over 50 years, that was really good. Being a salesman, Henry, I've had opportunity to win lots of plaques, lots of trips. I've had trips to Paris, Puerto Rico, had a chance to expose my family to a lot of things by being in sales, Disney World, Disneyland. But the bottom line, the question that you're talking to me about, is that when you get with your peer group, when they put you on a pier with a Judge Yotis, Senator Don Regal, Honorable Woodrow Stanley, even a Dr. Ray Giss, somebody in our community that not only represents us well, but he's national president of not just the Black Dentists Association, of all the dentists. So when you get that type of award with these type of people, it's really a genuine pleasure. It really means that you're well recognized in the community, and I appreciate it. And I think I've done a lot of things in the community to deserve it, but that's truly a highlight. That's probably the most prominent award that I've ever given, because they only give it as their most distinguished award. They only give it to 4 or 5 people a year, and there's quite a process to go through to make yourself a winner. So I'm very proud of that, along with your friends Michael Thorpe and a few others that was on that program with me. But that's what that was all about, Mr. Henry.
Well, thank you. But I'll have you know that, notice you didn't mention my name in distinguished individuals and the distinguished Americans, but that's okay. What is the criteria used for that selection?
I'll be glad to elaborate on that, Henry, but let's talk a little bit about you, if I may. You have been just an icon in the community. All the things that you've done, the things that you've done in the cloud school system, with the Board of Education, all the things you've done politically. You've got awards on top of awards from White House on down, so your name is in the highlights. Our kids went to the same schools. I really enjoyed all the work that you've done with Clio. I understand there's a new stadium, a lot of things, so you deserve a lot of credit, Henry, and I just want that to be known to everybody. People know it, but some of the people that are viewing this program might not be aware of all the things that you've done. And we go back in history, we've come a long way, but you deserve some credit. Now, back to whatever question you asked, I'll try to answer that one.
No, that was the criteria. I had asked you about what the criteria.
Now, that I'm not really clear on. I will say this. Obviously, it wasn't just academics, because if it was academics, I wouldn't have gotten an award today. I was just an average student doing average things. But that was a part of the process. But mostly it was community-oriented things that you've done throughout the years, a tribute to yourself, being able to help people. Now, to get in the mix, somebody had to put your name out there. I had no idea who did that for me. But I do know from talking to people that there's probably 20, 25 people that scrutinized maybe these 50 or 60 names to come down to this final 4. So that's kind of the criteria. Obviously, you had to go to Mott Community College. Back in the day that I went, it was actually Flint Junior College, and matriculated to Mott College. And it's grown to one of the largest, fastest universities today. I think they've got over 13,000 full-time students and possibly up to 20,000 with the part-time. So the school has done tremendously well. One good thing about Mott College, or Flint Junior College as it was called back in our day, is that you could almost transfer your credits anywhere. They were a well-renowned school back then. They still are today. You didn't lose a lot of credits whether you decided to go to Michigan State, Western Michigan, where a lot of my friends did go, But I just want to say my college is a real tribute to the community, and I appreciate that award once again. And that was the criteria that kind of went through me getting that award, which I really, really treasure.
Well, I hope Mott College staff and faculty and board and administration is watching this program. What a great testimony to Mott Community College.
Yes.
And I'm sure that if they're watching, they would appreciate that. Now, I think the same criteria was used pretty much that made you the businessman that you are. And I'm going to touch upon some of those areas if we get around to it after we kind of go through your background discussion in your business, the insurance business. But things that I would think would be part of that criteria would be your philanthropy, your health care, what you view as health care, public service that you've been involved in, the things that helped you to build up your business to where it was. And all of these, I would assume that all of these factors do contribute to you being a very successful businessman, because success is measured in all the things that you can give back. If you can have a passion for being there for people and so on and so forth, I think that that's part of it. Could you give us a thumbnail sketch of your of the business of the insurance agency businesses that you represent?
In parts, that was kind of a two-part question, Henry. So let me just relate back to giving to the community. It just seems like it's always been a part of my MO. I mean, I've always been a giving person, and I do try to contribute, whether it's through the church, the Boy Scouts. When everybody comes to me to do anything, I just feel obligated. I feel like I've been blessed to be successful. So I strongly believe in giving back to the community. So I've done that all of my life, and as you can see from some of the people that I've donated to, not a large scale of money because I don't have the big money, but the bottom line, people know they can count on me for the 50s, 100s, sometimes more than that. But I just believe in helping the young people today, and most of the things that I've done have been with the youth department. And even once we mentioned things like the old newsboys where you were a part of, been a big part of through the years, I got presents from them way back in the day. I didn't come from the silver spoon, come from a one-parent family, beautiful one-parent family. We had everything. There was love in the community, love in the home, but we didn't have a lot of money. And so the old newsboys was real instrumental in doing things for me way back in the days. I've never forgot that. I donate to them today. I probably should do more personally on that level because they've been good to me. And I know I'm going from one subject to another, so I think we're back to the thumbnail. What did you ask me?
Sketch of the agency business.
Okay.
Insurance business.
What happened to me, and I've been in the insurance business for over 40 years, and love it, and it's been good to me, and I've been good to it. I got into the insurance business accidentally. Back when I was working at AC, my sister was one of the first blacks to have a salary job with General Motors way back then. I was going to go into sales. That's always been something I wanted to do, even back to my college in the retailing curriculum. Now, back then, and I'm flip-flopping on some of this subject matter a little bit, but I think it's all important that we talk about it. And back when I was in my college, they really weren't really openings for blacks in terms of retailing and sales. When we look at downtown Flint, and we're going back 50 years, and the bottom line, I can say this, is that we made a lot of progress, and these days we still got a long way to go. But back when I was under that program, and people were working in some of the old stores that maybe people might not realize if they're looking at this from Detroit and other places, but our downtown area, just blacks weren't represented there at all, And so just by being able to crack that ceiling a little bit, by forcing them somewhat to take me into those programs, it's really been well for me, and things have really opened up. And I worked at Hatfield's Record Shop, one of the first persons. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it really means a lot to have made a good impact there. I worked at Hurley Store as a co-op in my community college program, and all of those things laid the foundation for me to finally get to where I am today. Now, to talk to you about the insurance bit, at AC, I was all set to go into sales. They had salesmen, and they were opening up the salesmen. So I was all set to go into sales with AC, Arthur Champion, selling oil filters and this type of thing. I might have had to relocate to Chicago. I was all set to enter that program and was ready to go and was all accepted to go. Gentleman came by my house. He knew my family's history. The Artis family goes back over 100 years, which is unusual in the Flint area to go back over 100 years for a black person. So he came to me and basically wanted me to give him some leads to get into the community. And of course, I was kind of young, teenager, not a teenager, but I was young. That didn't impress me. So finally he said we will be partners, me and him. And so I said, okay. He gave me an opportunity to go to Detroit. So once I went to Detroit to go to this school, I said, I'm just going to go to Detroit for the weekend, have fun, go back to my AC habitat, get ready to go into this. I saw a real opportunity, Henry, in this insurance business. I didn't go partying. I didn't do anything but study all the materials that they had for me. I became an insurance agent with this company called 20th Century Guardian Life. 6 months, I became a manager with them. Then I had this opportunity to go with Allstate Insurance in 1968, and I saw the opportunity to sell house, car, and other factors besides just the life insurance. And so from that point on, I didn't look back at all. I don't want to take all your conversation, Henry, but I'm just trying to elaborate a little bit.
Boy, what a profound testimony that was. Now, most people having a great secure job at General Motors Corporation would never consider leaving.
Yes.
They have benefits, they don't have any risk, they don't have any challenges, everything's taken care of for them. It's like a utopia to work for General Motors Corporation, but very few people can step away from it the way you did,
Yes.
or the way that my son did, who became the MD. And I really admire that kind of tenacity and forward thinking that made you who you are today.
It's amazing that you would say, I'm sorry, Henry, but it's amazing that you would say that, because my mother, for one, said, don't leave the security. Don't leave this.
Yes.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
But like you said, I decided that this was where I wanted to be. I had no idea I would do all that I've done today, but given the opportunity, I knew if I got the ball, I'd run with it. So I decided I was going to take a chance.
Now, what's also profound about that, if you think about it, Ezra, these were times when it was risky. When you're working for a secure place to leave that job, you work for General Motors Corporation.
Yes.
This was going to be your life work. And most people who went to work for General Motors Corporation in the area stayed there for 40 years,
Yes.
30 or 40 years. And in this case, you stepped away from the table, the hand that fed you,
Yes.
and got on some thin ice
Yes.
and floated
Yes.
until you found success in it.
Yes.
That's what's so profound about that. And the people who are watching this audience today, who are watching the program today, will probably also find that profound. And it will generate some kind of enthusiasm to go out and try the same things that you try. There's opportunity in the worst of things, if you will. You've heard that.
Sure,
right?
no question.
And what a great success story that is.
And I appreciate that. But yeah, like you said, I just went for it. I took a chance, and without saying it 3 times, Henry, that was a giant step to leave that security, to leave that, and just go out on a limb and say, I'm going to do this. Yeah.
And you know, Ezra, here's what's also very nice about that. Now, your business may have paralleled General Motors here, who started in 1903 with Buick. Mm-hmm. And in 1908, General Motors was formed. And so General Motors created an environment so that businesses like yours could flourish.
Sure.
Okay. And then, but it also had the same kind of business patterns, the fluctuation and cyclic up and down in sales and production and layoffs and so on and so forth. But I imagine your business had the same kind of fluctuations to some degree, because people found difficulty in paying their insurance premiums at times because of that. But you, General Motors, it's gone. The way we know General Motors
Sure.
is gone. But you're still here.
Yes.
How do you account for that?
Well, and it's amazing that you would say some of those things, because everybody that's around this area, Michigan, etc., they know that General Motors was the one that fed us. As they used to say, when General Motors sneezes, we catch pneumonia. So General Motors has always been the main cloud for us to, work with. And General Motors has been good to me in terms of what it's been able to do for its workers, because insurance is somewhat recession-proof. People have to have house insurance. People have to have car insurance. But summative assets, like you said, sometimes if you got life insurance policies, you might have to let that go if you got to choose between groceries and paying your life insurance premiums. So those are kind of things, and there has been peaks and valleys. You know, there was a time that you can remember when you did all the things that you did for General Motors, when you went out and recruited young students to come into the program, and I hear a lot of good things that you've done going to colleges and do things like that. So we want to be appreciative of that, what you've done. But it's really been a great process of ups and downs, and so we just had to just keep working and just keep plugging along. And if you give good service, and we pride ourselves on giving good service in my business, just a small insurance agency, but if you give good service, people won't really leave you when they know they can trust you, when they know that, hey, you're going to say, I'm looking out for your interest. Maybe you don't need this coverage. I'm not looking at the commission alone. I'm looking at what's best for you. You make the choice. So we've been able to survive by giving good service to people, and a lot of people are stuck with us even though the rates do fluctuate. You know, there's peaks and valleys in the rates, and rates are important to everybody. But
yes, you know, as I indicated that you gave a great testimony from Mott Community College, I hope that the people at the Twin Towers in Detroit at General Motors company now, it used to be the corporation, are watching the show as well. Because what a great testimony you gave to General Motors. And I want you to know, if General Motors is watching, that Ezra drives a GM car.
yes,
He does not drive cars that were not typically American-based.
No.
And that is a sense of loyalty that many Americans did not give industry here in this country. But that is probably part of your staying power as well, because I think that you believe in the American business model, and you kind of followed that.
yes.
And I'm sure that those who are seeing this will, someday you might get a big letter from the General Motors Company that thanks you for what you're doing.
Yeah, you have to celebrate the hand that feeds you.
Yes,
no
yes,
question
you do.
about it, you know.
Now, you know, let's spend a couple moments and talk about your business cycle. Now, one of these days you will probably retire from your business, and your business, General Motors business, lasted for 100 years, 1908 to 2008.
Okay.
That's the corporation, and and everybody who goes into business would love to see their business live long after they are gone.
Yes.
And in this case, I cannot see any departure from that desire in your business. And I want to just mention the succession planning. How do you plan to go about sustaining your business once you leave the business? Are you going to hire from the outside or hire from the inside and how would that
My
happen?
situation is somewhat unique, and like I said, I've been in the business 43 years and some change, Henry. I love working, you know, even at 70, almost 71 years of age. I love having something to do. You know, my son does work for me. He kind of runs the operation, and I like being there because I like my people. I like being out. I'm just going to be the type of person that always needs something to do. Eventually, I will turn it over to him, and he's anxious for that to happen any day now. But I'm still hanging on, and we're together in our thoughts. And he has a lot of ideas that he brings to the table that are different than mine because times have changed from my ideas from some of the old days. Even though I try to stay abreast, I might not stay up in computers like a lot of people have, but enough to keep me going and all of that. But once again, once he takes over, you know, I'll always want to do something. But my business plan is to stay in the background, whether I'll just control some of the stock that we set up and let him run the business. I really don't know. But I'll be involved in the hiring process to a certain extent, just give us some pointers on what I think as well as what he thinks. But I'm eventually going to turn it over to him and hope he can continue to make the success that we've had. And Flint has changed. You know, we've all seen changes at Flint. We know what General Motors did for us once upon a time. We know that Flint's coming back collegiately, but it's not going to be the same as it was. I think Flint will come back. I really do. I can't honestly say it'll be in my lifetime that it'll really come back as a collegiate town and get itself, back together. But it was once per capita number 2, number 3 in the whole United States, and I want to see us come back to those days.
It was number 1 back in 1970. It had the highest income per capita. I worked for General Motors, and I served General Motors on the area-wide Chamber of Commerce. I've been an expert witness for it in engineering, and I've written several articles for General Motors, and I enjoyed my career there. General Motors was really good to me. And my son was hired right after high school for General Motors, and went to college instead, and went into medicine, of course.
Fantastic. That's real tribute. And there's one question that you just brought up, and there's been debates, in some of the areas that you can handle, that you can answer for us, and some of the people listening. I understand that Alaska was maybe close once upon a time per capita. Did you ever hear that? In some of that? Okay.
Yes.
But we were still number 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
The United States was the Michigan, Genesee County.
Okay.
Flint, Michigan had the highest income per capita.
Okay.
In 1970.
Okay.
It turned over an income of $3.2 billion a year in wages and salaries.
Billion?
That equated to about $30,000 per person. And if you assume 10% of those individuals being black who made that money, and 10% of the income, that would give us an income collectively of all African Americans who worked for General Motors Corporation, and an income of $30 million a year. If we saved 10% of that for 1 year, over the 10,000 of us, we would have $30 million in 1 year that could have been a groundswell of investment money for us for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I talked about that when I was chairman of the Republican Party, and all of the opportunities that individuals had at that time. But it was difficult to get that point over.
Okay.
But now that all of that's gone, I think that people now see the evidence in that. We're already there. Let me ask you about national health care. I was listening to Millie at your recognition ceremony, and she said that you're an avid reader and you watch a lot of news, and you enjoy watching politics and so on and so forth. If that's the case, then I would like to ask you a little bit about health care, and that's on everybody's mind. The model that you say called the Affordable Care Act, do you think that that's good for this country?
I really do, Henry. I really think it's good. And even though it's our company, we don't really get into hospitalization and health care for selling and have a lot of expertise in that area. But just as an individual that watches CNN, that talks to people like you and all of that, I think it's something that's necessary, mandatory. I think we have to have something for our people to have hospitalization. With that said, I also say it's going to be expensive. How are we going to be able to pay for it? Because that's real important to us. And I feel like we all have to maybe bite the button a little bit. I think we're going to have to get healthier as individuals. I think we're going to have to try to lose a little bit more weight, eat healthier, go to the doctor. I think we all have to pitch in to help this, because I don't know where it's going to end. I don't see how we can, afford.
Okay, now I'm going to have to, we're going to close down now, but I'm going to have to ask you a series of little questions, and you answer as quickly as you can.
Yes, sir.
So you think that the National Health Care Model, called the Affordable Care Act, it makes good public policy. But let me ask you, what was wrong with Medicaid and Medicare, the government-funded insurance, who, in this country, nobody is without health care?
No.
If you break a leg here, somebody comes along and takes you to the hospital and takes care of you.
Okay.
What was wrong with...
Well, I don't think nothing's wrong with that. I think it's a great program, but I think it's going to grow to some point after my lifetime where something's got to give monetarily. I just don't see where we can...
You're right, and that's where I'm going.
Okay.
Something has to give over time. Now I want to quickly just touch upon education. Now, you know, in this community, we have our educated, our school district here in the city of Flint is in somewhat of a problem with we're not graduating as many African Americans as we need to. We need to beef that up, and we need to make sure that we're giving African Americans every opportunity to be successful. How can we do that in 15 seconds?
Well, I think what we have to do, and I'll be real brief, but the word mentoring. We all have to help, you know, at the elementary level. I think we just have to get into mentoring. And I think if we can do that collectively, I wish we could elaborate more, but I think mentoring is the key, and that's what I think we need to do.
Ezra, thank you for the great discussion today. I had fun with it. You've been a great guest, and we've discussed a lot of substantive things. Now it's time for the show to come to a close. First, we want to thank our viewers, our guest, like you, for the great show that you presented to us. And until next time, stay focused.